Hello, my outstanding friends. It's starting to look like it might be getting ready to turn around. Science has been a disaster, a total disaster for over 50 years, more than that. And it's been domination, indoctrination, do as you're told or you're failed. And that's just led to a total stagnation. And everybody's starting to fight back, even the Royal Institution. Let me show you what in the last few days, they're all starting to stand up finally. You see here? Our top institutions preventing progress in physics. Yes, they won't even agree with the periodic table's wrong. They can't account for gravity. They have no idea what they're doing. Down here, the elements don't fit the periodic table. That's correct because it's wrong. What's the future of science education? Science education has been struggling. How can we change this? This is the Royal Institution. These are the big shots in the whole world of science education. And they know it's just a disaster because kids can't speak up. Nobody can speak up. Once you do, I don't care if you're a teacher or you're a kid, they'll destroy your life. And that's what's happened. Okay, my friends, I am going to make truth and honesty a campaign issue. If they will not address what my concerns are here about the truth and the lies and the fraud in academia, do not vote for them. Who will stand up for truth? This has gone way beyond fraud and lies. It's deception, it's usury, it's slavery. Okay, not only did Yale take credit for my work, exceptionally preserved soft-bodied creatures promoted by silica-rich oceans. That was a year after I submitted all my final stuff, including CAT scans, DNA, specimens, everything. And then Yale took credit for it, and guess who funded it? We did, from NASA. NASA, astrobiology. And the reason was, I contacted NASA and I said, Yale won't talk to me, but we also have these exact same things on Mars as we do have out here on Earth. The Mars crab, the Mars blueberries, and the Mars Morse code. I showed it all to NASA. They wouldn't talk to me, but apparently they went to Yale and they said, is this true? They said, yeah, it is true. All these things preserved, but not the way you think. They said that it was all just slimy creatures. This is the Yale-led team. No, it wasn't. It was me. I did this research. And this is the problem. We have frauds and plagiarists in our top universities taking credit for everything. I went to the president of Yale, Peter Salavoy. I've sent over and over. I said, you people are plagiarizing my work, and you're not doing this right, and you have everything wrong. They say it was 540 million years ago. This is really starting to annoy the hell out of me that they are allowed to get away with this. And then they said the stuff could have turned into rock within hours, which I told them. I said, this was a very unusual event. And then they say, oh, but it was all before there was anything like we have here now. It says, a big part of the answer involves how these fossils were able to form. I showed them precisely, and I've already made them. The animals themselves were entirely soft body. They lived before the evolution of shells, teeth, or bones. Total nonsense. These people are so incompetent, it's absolutely beyond belief, and they're liars and frauds. They agree with everything I say, but then they turn it all around, and then they took credit for it, and then they got the money from from NASA to fund them. It says many of these bizarre appearance do not resemble any organism alive today. The lead author from Yale. We would like to understand their relationship to the complex animals evolved shortly thereafter. No, these were also complex creatures. And were they some form of failed evolutionary experiment, or they do include the ancestors of the animals that are alive today? No, they were the same kind of animals, only there was a lot more diversity, and there was giants, and that is what I presented to Yale, and that's when they freaked out. All right, physics, they have no idea what they're doing. The periodic chart is not right because hydrogen is made out of 1,825 or so dipoles, which is together is a dipole. I've shown this in my research over and over and over. And I tried to work with Fermilab for 8 years ago, and what I got was nothing. So why is physics such a disaster? Well, the standard model is completely wrong. Once you get above the subatomic, it's not that far off. Below the subatomic is completely wrong. There is no one gigantic proton and a tiny little electron. There's 1,825 or so dipoles in a hydrogen, and that is what a dipole is right there. And Fermilab has seen these, and they're all getting their Nobel Prizes and everything for walking around in circles for over 50 years. They do realize there's all these dipoles inside of particles, but they just don't know anything about them. I do. The dark part is in the center, the white part surrounds it. They can be separated. And we did separate them right here. All right, here's what we did. We took light, laser light, pulse red laser, and it's accelerated. So right there, Einstein's wrong. Everything we know about space is wrong, because if you can accelerate and slow down light, then everything 100% changes. All that's wrong. And we did accelerate, there's no question about that. And then at the Venturi, we not only accelerated, we did fission, we did fusion. Not allowed by Fermilab. They won't allow me to speak. They called me a tinfoil hat guy, and this is Fermilab's point particles. That's the fixed and that's the point, and here it is right here. This is their article. I got a hold of them. I said, I found your particles. No, you're not. You're a tinfoil hat guy. Don't ever contact us again. And I really, got really nasty. And you can't fight these people. They're in charge, and you're screwed. The whole purpose of what they're doing is to try to get that white separated from the black, which is called electron showers, and that's exactly what we did. The black one is the muon. The white one, the electron neutrino. These are neutrinos. The white one, when it shuts down, when it explodes at the Venturi, it turns into showers. You see it? So the muon is the black one. The white one, it turns into electron showers, and that's precisely what I just showed you. Right here, we did it. The black one stays back and turns into a sterile muon, and the white one goes through as showers. If you can do this, which we did, that is exactly what they're trying to do, to harvest that white. That was what energy is right there, and that's what they're trying to do. We did it, not allowed. All right, I'm trying to be calm, but I'm telling you, this is very, very upsetting. I found these particles in light research I did with Rodney Warren, and we could see the same particles that they were trying to find at CERN, and the only thing they're trying to do is to get this separated, which is what's all free electricity. If you can separate that from the black, you have free electricity, and guess what we did? Here it is right there. The black is separated from the white. Remember the black and the white particles. And here they are. These are the exact same particles. There's no difference whatsoever, because they are the particles that they see at CERN and Fermilab, and we see them here too, because we started with light. We didn't start with gigantic particles. So we can see everything, but only we can see it in detail, where they can't see it other than just big blobs of garbage. And here's what we did. The muon neutrino, electron neutrino attached together, the black and white. The muon goes by itself. The electron turns into a shower. That's fission, that's fusion. That is raw electricity we could use right now and save the planet, not allowed by Fermilab, because I am considered a tinfoil hat guy, is what they said. And we accelerated light. That destroys Einstein. All of that stuff is total nonsense, what we have been forced to repeat, which has destroyed science for 50, 60, 70 years. They're just walking around in circles getting more funding. If we had this more money, just give us some more money. We need more money. Bullshit. Here's the particles they're looking for. Exactly. And I showed it to Fermilab and to CERN too, and to University of Geneva, where I went for particle physics. I showed them this stuff, and they didn't fight back at it. They just said, well, we talked about it, and we discussed it, and I said, can I work with you? And they said, no. I said, well, what are you going to do? They said, well, we'll follow you on Facebook. I'm not kidding you. That was the last conversation I had with them. Nobody's following anything. They're just trying to chase around after money. That's what they're following, is funding. And then you get Yale. I spent a ton of money on CAT scans, DNA tests. This is from 2015. All of it was done, and I tried to get to Yale to look at it. And I told them it was a heavy-duty silica rich silicon, in 50 times the silicon in the grip skin and in the tissues of the outside of the tissue, which causes things like this to turn into mud fossils. I call it fascia facilitated fossilization, which means the coating of the skin and always fascia facilitated fossilization, and totally perfectly preserved creatures. And I had them, and I sent it to Yale, and I sent all this stuff about how it happened and how I worked with people all over the world about this interstitium, which I also discovered that. Nobody knew about that either. And then in 2018, somebody else took credit for discovering the interstitium, which is this layer somewhere right here. It's right there. All fascia is made of collagens, keratin. Everything is individually comes together in one giant system. All right, and that is the fluid-filled highway. That's where all of the fluids go through your body. Nobody if you are covered by a teacher or you are employed in one of these places, you can't speak. So you better say exactly what you're told to say, and we're just stagnated. They destroyed everything. And Yale is about as bad as it gets. Yale is actually worse than anybody I've seen. Absolute disgrace. See, here it is right here. The fascia is a fluid-filled fabric network, covers your fluid-filled highway, covers your whole body. It all comes together as one giant system. And we're talking about a lot of silicon, and we're talking about a flood, and we're talking about how everything fossilized on these fascia planes. All right, like this. Right here, which is a human lung. This is pleura. It coats the lung. There's a little red flap at the bottom that latches this into the next body part. This is where the actual heart was, right above there. This is the left human lung. The heart was below that. It died in the flood, which is something that really freaked them out. And I have giants that freaked them out. And they are DNA tested, as is this, and CAT scanned. And I drilled into here inside to get the blood out of there, which there was plenty of blood. It comes out, dried, but it's powdery blood. This is another creature that was preserved in the Great Flood too. Flat on this side, same thing. It's a goose. And there's this feather pattern in the top of his head. And I did a catalase test on the artery right there. There's a ton of blood in here. And that's, they transition nucleophilic substitution. So this is my paper, 2015. Yale stole my research. They put out their paper in 2016, exceptionally preserved soft body creatures promoted by silica-rich oceans. Just what I told you, 50 times the silicon in the oceans, worldwide flood. And then they go on to say, and this is 2016, 1 year after, I finally published my paper and got that done. Now this takes a long time to hook in, hold on. See, here's another one of their blips they put out about how their Yale-led team found all of these marine fossils. Marine fossils, it's because it was a flood, a giant flood covered the whole earth, worldwide. And the creatures were flawlessly preserved. And they're saying these were the earliest creatures that lived, and they were just soft-bodied. There was no bones or anything. And they wouldn't know about it except for the chemistry, which was the silicon. And that came to the surface because of the salacious ooze that's in the ocean floor when we almost got hit by Venus. They destroyed Velikovsky, who wrote all of these accounts, which everybody in the world said this happened. We were almost hit by Venus, which was a fiery comet, and it destroyed the whole world and literally stopped the world from spinning for a short time. And all of the oceans flooded all over the entire world, and that's what the Great Flood was. And it's not unknown, it's just been dismissed. And they say that they're all over the world, and there was a diverse community of all of these soft body creatures, and they're bizarre in appearance, don't resemble any organism alive today. And this was the Yale authors. And yes, they don't resemble a lot of things, but they're similar. This is a no-toe from a foot that was almost like a human. It has the regular tibia came down, and the fibula sits on the side. And we also have other ones that have springs in them instead of bones. They say there's nothing, it might have been a failed evolutionary experiment but they want to know if anything is held over from that time and they're still in the oceans today. Well, there's a lot of things that are still there. It says that they can't figure out how the fossils were able to form. The animals were entirely soft-bodied before evolution of shells, teeth, or bones, which is typically the only parts of an organism to become fossilized. It fossilized because of nucleophilic substitution in a hot, salty, silica-saturated waters of the ocean because of this giant flood. I presented them with all of this stuff and my evidence and all of these things, and I was told by Derek Briggs, all you have is rocks. Then I went to NASA and I said, we have the same thing, because at the same time I realized, well, let me just show you. Before I do that, though, don't forget that it was this dissolved silica that was in the water, much richer. And they could have formed in a matter of hours or days. I mean, this is exactly what I told Yale. This is almost word for word. It said they were buried rapidly in the sand from underwater storm events. And ice is mud. They turned it into sand. All right, and the process cementing the sand grains in the mud happened rapidly, and they were buried, and they were exceptional preservation. They said they used detailed microscope-based techniques, exactly what I did use. And this is the guy right here, Derek Briggs. And they're aware of this. I got a hold of the president of Yale, and I said, you guys are plagiarizing my work. And what's going on here? And absolute silence, dead silence from all of them. I contacted everyone that was involved in this, and I said, you're plagiarizing my work, and you've taken money from NASA, and really just give them my research. And I had gotten a hold of NASA, like I'm going to show you right now, to show them the same things that are here on Earth are on NASA, and they are biology. I mean, on Mars, and they're biology. And NASA must have gone to Yale, because here's what it says. That's where they got their funding. You see down here? Okay, they got support from the National Science Foundation, Earth Science, plus they got from a grant from the American Philosophical Society, plus they got a grant from Dozer and somebody, plus they got money from NASA. Look at this. A NASA Astrobiology Institute fellowship to Hood or whatever, I don't know. They got money from everybody to do this, and that's the only thing they're interested in at Yale. And if they tell me they're interested in anything else, why didn't they look at my research? It's called fraud. When you suppress valid information and you deny it's to be able to be seen. And that's what they did. And plagiarism is when you take somebody else's paper. I don't know if you can see as plagiarism. I do. All right, remember I was talking about the fluid-filled highway? This is it right here. And this was in 2015. I reported on it. And in 2018, they said, yes, we're going to call it a newfound organ, because this fluid-filled highway was never seen in a human body when they did autopsies, because it was all drained and flat. They thought it was just a flat sheet. And the only reason I could see it was because everything was preserved as is. There was no flatness to it. I could see this layer everywhere between the skin and the good tissue, in between organs and good tissue. That's why I call it fascia, this is the fascia area. But in addition to fascia, it had the fluid-filled highway. They never knew there was fluid-filled. So I discovered this as well. There's 3 things right there that I discovered that are not allowed, because they're just not allowed. See, they always thought it was finding reveals that rather than a wall, a dense wall, the tissue is more like an open, fluid-filled highway. Exactly what I said in my paper. A fluid-filled network. So this is what science has come. It's funding. It's trying to search around for funding. And let me show you the stuff that's on Mars, and that'll secure that. I'm true about that too. So this I discovered. Fission and fusion. And I discovered Mars has life on it, or did at one time. Just to be sure, I'm getting a little worked up, so I want to be sure you understand. This is the ones they found at Fermilab. These are the ones we found. We accelerated light, not supposed to be allowed. We show it slows down too. We show that fission happened where the black and the white came apart. Normally they're like this. The black came apart from the white, and then it came back together. That's fission and fusion. Now let's go to Mars. All right, check this out. This is insane. This is interstitium. That's the stuff I discovered, is this fluid-filled highway. And when you get down into it, you can see all these little tiny balls and straps. And this is also interstitium. The balls have eroded away. And this is also the balls that have eroded away out of, they're called Moki marbles. And these are on Mars. And so is the interstitium right here on Mars. And so is there a big vein and artery. It's called the Mars crab. Let's go take a look at that. Here's the blueberries that are on Mars, the same as the Moki marbles. These are the Mars blueberries. Just look it up. It's not hard to find. These are, this is the Mars crab. That's an artery and that's a vein. All right, that's an artery. Right here, and with all these little things, there's these little blood vessels going into these muscle sarcomeres. You see all these are connective tissue? All the red fleshy stuff has eroded out, and this is just all the really fibrous connective tissue in blocks. That is what muscles are made of, and this is exactly what muscles are made of right here. That's the exact same stuff. And all you see is it's eroded in between the blocks, and you see all the straps. And then you see I have one right here in my shop. Right here, that's a muscle. That's it right here. This is, it was a muscle that attached to a bone. There's the bone right there. There's the tendon. This piece here is right here. And I'm going to show you there's one in the ocean. And it has this circle right here with a strap coming out in the center of the tendon. You see it right there, that right there, coming out. And then it turns into muscle. Here it is tough. There's no blood. There's no pink. You see it? All the blood's coming out here. And this is what the crab would have been up on Mars, except the legs have eroded away. But that's where all the red blood comes out to service that muscle. That's the way bodies work. They don't even know this at Yale. They have no clue about this. It's unbelievable, the incompetence there. It's just stunning. And I showed all this stuff. There's nothing here that I hid whatsoever, and I was denied, and here it is right up on Mars. Same stuff, identical same stuff. So here they are spending billions of our dollars looking for this. This was in 2015, 2014 maybe. And this is when I was trying to work with Yale, and they took my stuff, and here's the Mars Morse code. You see this? Just look it up, Mars Morse code. That is interstitium, and this is, I can tell this is on Mars because it's sandblasted. There's no water erosion here whatsoever. I keep getting these crazy people say, oh, there's no such thing as people on Mars. Well, I know what I'm looking at because I do the research, and I get them on both sides. I get the people that are crazy because they can't accept that we're going out and doing these things, and I get the people that say, well, this is all just... They don't even know what to say anymore. They just stopped saying. They stopped talking because I brought it up to all of them. And this stuff is gigantic. You see that? This is a membrane. It's 6 feet thick between here. Over 6 feet thick. This is the bottom layer of the membrane. This is the top layer. And there's no question what this is. It's a membrane. And there's gigantic stuff. Here it is right here. These are the channels, the protein channels. And these are all the membranes. And if you look at this thing carefully, you can fully understand what was happening here. This was a flexible sheet. And these were all glued together in these little gluey spots, and they've eroded out of it. But they were the gluey spots that can move around like this. The same thing happened to the Mars blueberries. I mean, the Mars Morse code. All of the gooey stuff ran out. Because the gooey stuff is what lets things move around. Now look at this. Remember I showed you at my shop? There's that ball, and here's the tendon strap. The bone would have been right here, and the muscle here, both weak, and that's why this has stayed. They say millions of years. No. That thing died. Whatever gigantic creature it was, I don't know. I've shown the dragon in the north of Africa typhon. There's no question he's there with a gigantic fish he was attacking, shown it hundreds of times, not one single response from anybody in academia. And I've been going after him. I don't just talk to you guys. I try to get through to everybody, but absolutely no interest whatsoever in anything that won't get them funding. And I'm not going to give them any funding. And we should stop right now. So don't forget, that's the tendon, and the reason it's sticking up is because it's the tough spot, and it's this tendon right here, and that's sticking up in the ocean. The bone is over there, eroded away. Flesh erodes away. They're the cheap stuff. And look at this. You can use a cell phone and see the things that they're spending billions of dollars. We're going to look for gravity waves. These are exactly what they're looking for. Use a cell phone to do that, and we use the cell phone to do all of the light research as well. This is the reason they're not getting enough money from us to do this. We have been supporting these people, and now they have become our slave drivers. They're literally put kids into slavery. And the people that are working as the teachers are the slave masters now. That's just a fact. You cannot defend yourself against them. They will ruin your life. Ruin it. All right, it's all over the place now. Their teachers are toxic, they're ruining people's lives, and this was written about too, just as the giants and the dragons were. Okay, you see this right here? It's a campaign issue now. Do not vote for anybody that does not address this fraud, and Yale is the biggest fraud that is in academia. Academic fraud involves a deliberate effort to deceive, includes plagiarism, fabrication of data, misrepresentation of historical sources, tampering with evidence, selective suppression of unwanted or unacceptable results, and theft of ideas. That is a perfect description of Yale University. Here's a few little quotes for you. I have no greater joy than to hear that my children walk in truth. They claim to know God, but by their actions they deny Him. They are detestable, disobedient, and unfit for doing anything good. This is all about teachers. False teachers and their destruction. There were also false prophets among the people, just as there will be false teachers among you. They will secretly introduce destructive heresy, even denying the sovereign Lord who bought them, bringing swift destruction on themselves. Many will follow their depraved conduct and will bring the way of truth into disrepute. In their greed, these false teachers will exploit you with fabricated tales. They just make anything up. Their condemnation has long been hanging over them, and their destruction has not been sleeping. This is what's going to happen. These people are screwed. Everybody dies, my friend. And when something's going to happen to you one way or the other. I've been doing too much research to deny that. And they deny that any of that stuff is real. Get what you can right now. Go for the big bone and eat it fast. And screw everybody else. And that's what's happened to our academic societies. Absolute disgrace to humanity now. That's my last word. Thank you. I love you all.